What's going on, Yu-Gi-Oh fans? Today I came across an article from TCG Player called the Top 10 Underrated Cards That You Missed in Power of the Elements. Now, if you know anything about Power of the Elements, you know it had so many bangers, so if I miss something, I need to know and I need to pick it up immediately. So let's just get into this list and figure out what we need. So first of all, we got at number 10, I never figured out how to pronounce this thing's name, Katorin, the Hidden Gem of the Seafront. Hopefully I said that correctly. But this card is actually pretty decent. You can discard this card, then you can normal summon one Earth or Water monster in addition to your main phase this turn. In addition to your normal summon set. You can only gain this effect once per turn. If you control an Earth and Water monsters, while this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use each effect of this card specifically once per turn. Now, I believe that it's really good at Emancipators, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, actually, right here. We got Emancipator, and seems like people are somewhat using it in Flunderies based on what this person is saying here. However, I was trying to use it more in my Gradle deck, and that's because the Gradle deck itself is kind of slow, and this does provide another summon, so it does help speed it up a bit. So definitely, I do like this card. I must have pulled like 2 or 3 different playsets when I was pulling Power of the Elements, the entire box. So I have a bunch of them. So this is definitely, if something you haven't picked up and you have an Earth or Water deck specifically, definitely I would say something that you should look into, especially if it's something a little bit older or slower. So definitely helps speed it up in my opinion. Next, we got number 8 and 9, Rika Concon and Rika Princess. Now, if we know anything about Rikas, I believe Plant Deck just recently took, it was an MCole40 video I was watching. He's a great YouTuber. I love watching his videos. And I believe it wasn't a locals, but it was some tournament and they won. I just can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but I know a lot of people are really hyped about Rikas right now and just plants in general. So I pulled a bunch of these too. During your main phase, you can special summon this card from your hand, but while it is face up in the monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters except plant monsters. When your opponent activates a monster effect where you control a Rika monster, quick effect, you can shuffle this card from your hand or deck. From your hand or graveyard into the deck, tribute one plant monster, negate that effect. So it's a great card overall. Definitely does help out the plant strategy, so I can completely see this. And then this, I believe it lets you tribute your opponent's monster in order to activate effects. Let's make sure. Once per turn, if you attribute a plant monster to control activate a Rika effect, you contribute one face-up monster your opponent controls. These two together are kind of busted, right? This combo is pretty good. But overall, Rikas and plants have been doing pretty decent. It's definitely, they're not in like their glory days of like when Therions came out and people were running it with the Therion monsters and whatnot. However, it's still doing pretty good. Like I said earlier, they're winning tournaments and whatnot. So definitely, if you're interested in plant strategy still, I would recommend picking those up. Next, we got 6 and 7, Melfi Penny and Mary Melfis. So I must have pulled 3 sets each of all of these cards. But Melfis, I feel like are really, really underrated. They're just missing like that one piece before they're like up there, in my opinion. This card is really, really good just because it lets you synchro summon from your hand, which is it has the potential to be just a busted mechanic. If a beast monster you control is returned to the hand this turn, except Melfi Penny, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon one synchro monster using this card you control and Melfi monsters in your hand. So it does help prevent that. I know Melfis do have their own effects and whatnot, but because it's a tuner, you don't necessarily want it to have the same effect of, pop it back to your hand in order to do some other stuff. So it does really, really help out the strategy that you can special summon it right from the hand. Chaining with your beast monster, one of your other Melfi's effects, which goes back to the hand, and then you can synchro summon essentially. So that works really, really well. One thing I want to make sure though, synchro summon one synchro monster you control using only this card and Melfi monsters in your hand. So it's not Melfi specific. So if you really wanted to, there are other monsters that you can get into that that are level 4s, I believe, that you should be able to summon. And that effect is pretty good. And next we got Mary Melfis, which obviously is probably the prime target, but we do have stuff like, what was that card that I'm thinking of? The Herald card. Herald of the, I think it was Arc Light, actually. I could be mistaken. Herald of the blah, blah, blah. I do not remember off the top of my head, but it's a synchro one. I'm sure if you guys look up Herald and type in and just look for the synchro monster, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's a pretty decent card. It has a negate effect, plus it can banish anything on the field, I believe. So it's a good card. But next we got, so this takes a tuner and tuner monsters, and obviously the main way that I like to make it in my Melfi deck at least is with Melfi Penny. But if this card is special summon, you can target one face-up monster in the field, return it to the hand. If your opponent normal or special summons a monsters except during the damage step, or if your opponent's monster target this card for an attack, you can return this card to the extra deck and special summon one Melfi Xyz monster from your extra deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. So honestly, great way to get into certain combos. But one thing I would say is, or sorry, not one. I just worded that like it's like some negative thing. But this thing is 7 cents, and this thing is 6 cents. So I would definitely recommend. Just Melfi's in general is super cheap. So if you are interested in making a deck that you think is super cheap, super fun, or if you're new at the game in general and you want to just learn some mechanics, learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, this is a great deck. Honestly, it has potential. Like when I'm playing with my friends and whatnot. Obviously, it isn't the most meta deck, but it does get me some wins. So I would definitely say this is a deck that's worth picking up for anyone who's new or anyone who's just looking for a deck to have fun with. Definitely for sure. Next, we got number 4 and number 5. We got Punk Jam Dragon Drive and Punk Jam Extreme Session. Now, Extreme Session is the field spell for this archetype. This thing I think is actually really, really good. You can banish a Punk card from your graveyard to special summon a Punk monster from your hand. So that gives you an extra summon. So it does really, really help out. And then on top of that, if a psychic monster you control paid life points to activate this effect, which is pretty much all Punk monsters, you can draw 1 card. And you can use this effect of junk twice per turn. So basically, it's 2 free draws. And that's really, really good. Really does speed up the deck. I think Punks have a really good future coming up. I haven't bought most Punk cards. I have some that I pulled from back in the day. They're still in my little side box, but a lot of them are really expensive. So that's why I haven't bought them personally. Next, we got Punk Jam Dragon Drive, which is a new synchro monster for this archetype. I'm glad to see another synchro monster for this archetype. First, we only had 1, if I'm not mistaken. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Punk card or synchro summon, you can pay 600 life points, take 1 level 3 psychic monster from your deck, and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Now, that has potential for insane stuff, but I don't remember what... I think it was one of the Ghost Sisters. It has potential to be added off of this effect, if I'm not mistaken, and that's kind of crazy. So this for sure has potential. It's only 23 cents, plus the field spell. I don't own the field spell. All these other cards, if I haven't mentioned, I own all of them. The field spell, I do not own. So for sure, it's 26 cents. Might pick up a couple play sets of this, actually. Because if Punks take off, you never know. This thing could get expensive. Next to 1 to 3, Flourishing Hills, Thawing Mountains, and Awakening Forests. Now, Vernis Elves, in my opinion, they have potential. They're not all the way there yet, but they do have some support, I believe, coming out in Darkwing Blast. And I think these things have potential. I know not MCO40. I think it was the Kali effect in his Earth Machine deck was actually using one of the Vernis Elf cards, and I thought that was interesting. Me personally, I picked up a playset of all the main core, all the spell cards, all the trap cards, all the monsters, just because I feel like it's a very interesting archetype. Plus, it's adorable to pick up, and it was really, really cheap. I think it cost me like less than $5 to pick up the whole core. And I just throw in some hand traps, a couple other things, maybe Barrier Statue, maybe a copy of Fossil Dino Palpachio. I think that's what it's called, but it looks like basically a dinosaur. And this deck has potential. I'm not even gonna lie, but overall, and they have pretty unique effects. And I'd love to see Earth getting some support. It's been a while, you know. I think that this is fair. And oh, look right here, Fossil Dino Pachi. I don't know how to pronounce it. This is the thing I was talking about. But Barrier Statue of the Drought I threw in there, but I feel like more decks are having certain Earth monsters in there. So like I was facing off against my friend's zombie deck, and he had a couple of Earth monsters in there. So it wasn't as effective as Fossil Dino Palpachio could have been, because this would just shut down special summons in general. Whereas this gives them a opening. So I definitely think I would choose this one over this one in hindsight. I do have a couple, so I'll just dig them out, put them in my deck. But next we got ourselves Pit Knight Yearly. Takes 2 effect monsters. When this card honestly is really good. And it comes in a common. I pulled so many of these. When a monster card that points to activate this effect, except during the damage check, quick effect, you can target 1 effect monster your opponent controls until the end of this turn, change its attack to 0, also negate its effects. So it works really, really great as a negate, and it's generic, just takes 2 effect monsters, so I could see this being used in a lot of different decks. If this card is sent to the graveyard because it was destroyed by battle or card effect and sent there, you can special summon this card. So it has the ability to revive itself on top of that. So I definitely think this is a pickup that might be worth it, just because it's so easy to get your hands on. Next are, I guess, right here, honorable mentions. Honorable mention goes to Pit Knight Yearly. Okay, that's an honorable mention. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, we already went to 1. It's a super cool pickup for almost any deck, and I've heard, okay, blah, blah, blah. A few other cards that the person who wrote this thought was cool. So Crawler Soma. Now, I think this is a good card in general for crawlers because they desperately need support. And on top of that, just for flips. But it is way better just for crawlers specifically. Overall, I'm not that interested in Crawler deck. I did pull a bunch of these, but I don't think I'm going to be doing anything with this anytime soon. Therion Empress Alasia, I pulled one of these. I pulled one of these exactly. And I pulled one of Gem Knight Quartz too. Gem Knights is actually an archetype I'm kind of interested in, so that might be coming soon, at least for me. But Therion Empress, I also don't really have a direction that I want to take with a Therion deck, just because King Regulus is so expensive right now. I know it's gotten a lot cheaper. It was like 60, 70 bucks at one point. I think now it's like 40-ish. 40-ish bucks, but I think overall I'm just gonna hold onto this and this until maybe I have a use for them, and then this I might try out and just to see how it goes. But anyways, guys, this is overall, I think this is a pretty decent list. These cards, I would say, especially Vernis, are kind of underrated. Punks are, I think they're starting to get a little bit more what do you say, the time in the limelight, because people obviously would splash them in a lot of different decks. I've seen zombie punk decks a lot, actually, but I kind of would like to see them and test them out as their own archetype. That would be really fun to me. Overall, Melfis, I think, are kind of underrated as well. Rikas, I think they're getting more attention now that they just had that victory. This thing, I don't hear a single person talking about it. So overall, I think this is an interesting list. Overall, this is subjective, obviously, so you may have something that you feel is a little bit more underrated, and of course I'd love to hear about that in the comments below. Anything you feel that is underrated from Power of the Elements, or even just in general, I'd love to hear about what you feel like could be good in the future, or maybe is good right now and is not getting the attention it deserves. I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. But anyways, guys, this is PlotArmorCards signing out for the day. If you like what you saw, don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe. And oh my goodness, look at the time.
It's time to do